The Galactic Council was the most powerful organization in the entire galaxy. For centuries, it had controlled the fate of countless civilizations, making decisions that shaped the future of entire star systems. But now, for the first time, they had set their sights on humanity, a planet full of chaos, creativity, and unpredictability. Earth had become an unpredictable threat in their eyes. Their vast advanced technologies and endless potential had caught the attention of the Council. It was not a good kind of attention. There were whispers in the Council chambers about the danger of allowing humanity to rise. Their rapid technological progress, their unpredictable nature, and their determination to overcome any obstacle made them a dangerous species, a species that might one day challenge the power of the Council itself. The Council members sat in silence, their faces hidden beneath their hoods. The room was cold and sterile, filled with a tense energy that could be felt in the air. A large holographic map of the galaxy shimmered before them, displaying the positions of various planets, star systems, and the most strategic areas of power. At the center of it all was Earth, a small blue planet on the edge of the galaxy. Humanity had grown far faster than anyone had expected. They had developed space travel, they had discovered advanced technologies, and their military was now a formidable force. But it wasn't just their strength that worried the Council. It was their spirit, their defiance, and their unwillingness to submit. For the Council, that was the most dangerous trait of all. In the Grand Hall, a figure stepped forward. He was tall and lean, with sharp features that seemed to cut through the tension in the room. His name was Zorath, the leader of the Council, and he was known for his cold, calculated decisions. He had seen many civilizations rise and fall, and he had watched as others were brought to their knees by the power of the Galactic Council. But humanity, he had decided, was a threat unlike any other. He raised his hand, silencing the murmurs of the other Council members. "It is decided," Zorath said in a voice that echoed throughout the chamber. "Humanity must be exiled." The words hung in the air like a dark cloud. The members of the Council exchanged glances, unsure of how to react. Exile was not a decision they took lightly. It meant the complete removal of a species from the known galaxy, condemning them to an isolated corner of space, a place where they would be forced to fend for themselves, cut off from the rest of the galaxy. It was the ultimate punishment, and Zorath believed it was the only way to prevent humanity from becoming a true threat to the Council's control. A murmur of agreement rippled through the Council. Some saw the decision as a necessary one, others as a way to assert their dominance over a species they believed could one day rival their power. But there was a growing unease among the members. They had seen the rise of humanity's great potential, and they knew that exile would not be the end of the story. They had underestimated humanity before, and many feared they might do so again. Still, the decision was made. Zorath's voice rang out once more. "Humanity will be exiled to the forgotten planet, Asteris. It is a barren, lifeless world, far from the heart of the galaxy. There, they will have no resources, no allies, and no hope of survival. Their fate is sealed." As Zorath spoke, a dark energy seemed to fill the room, as if the decision had taken on a life of its own. The Council members nodded, their faces filled with a strange mix of certainty and fear. They all knew that once humanity was cast into the unknown, there would be no turning back. They would be left to die, alone and forgotten, in a corner of the universe. And yet, there was something about the humans that made them wonder. Would they truly perish as easily as the Council hoped? Or would they fight back, as they always had? Across the galaxy on Earth, the leaders of humanity had no idea what was about to unfold. They had been busy with their own concerns, wars, politics, and the constant struggle to maintain their place in the cosmos. The news of their exile came as a shock, but they would not go quietly. Humanity was not a species that bowed down to authority, especially when that authority was as distant and cold as the Galactic Council. In the quiet halls of the United Earth Government, President Maria Patil stood before a large window, looking out at the sprawling city below. She was a woman of great intelligence and strength, one who had guided humanity through countless challenges. But now, for the first time, she felt a deep, unsettling fear. The Council's decision was swift and unforgiving. There would be no debate, no second chance. They were being cast aside like a forgotten relic, a species that had outlived its usefulness. Patil's mind raced as she thought about the future. How would humanity survive? What would they do without the resources of the galaxy to support them? There were still so many questions, so many unknowns. But one thing was certain: humanity would not go down without a fight. "Prepare the fleet," she ordered. "We may be exiled, but we will not be forgotten. The Galactic Council may think they can break us, but they are gravely mistaken. We will rise from this, stronger than ever." As her command echoed through the corridors of the government building, the first steps toward humanity's greatest challenge were already being taken. The people of Earth began to mobilize, readying their ships, their weapons, and their technology. The fight for survival had begun. Back in the heart of the galaxy, the Council awaited the news of humanity's exile. Zorath, standing before the holographic map of the galaxy, could not shake the feeling that he had made a grave mistake. He had expected the humans to crumble, to fall into despair, but something inside him told him that this would not be the case. Humanity had proven time and time again that they would do whatever it took to survive. And now, exiled and alone, they would have nothing left to lose. Zorath stared at the hologram of Earth, his mind filled with doubt. But it was too late to turn back now. The decision had been made. Humanity was on its own, cast into the void of space. The Council would watch and wait, confident that they had won. But little did they know, humanity had just begun to show them what it meant to fight. Humanity had been abandoned, cast away into the vast, dark void of space with nothing but their will to survive. The planet Asteris, a barren world on the outer rim of the galaxy, was now their prison. The Galactic Council, in its infinite wisdom, believed that the harsh, unforgiving environment would break the spirit of the humans. It was a world with no resources, no allies, and no hope. But as the first human ships landed on Asteris, something unexpected happened. The humans didn't crumble. Instead, they adapted. The cold, desolate surface of the planet seemed to have no effect on their determination. They set up camp, not with the intention of surviving until they were rescued, but with the intent of thriving. In the face of overwhelming odds, they pulled together, creating a society from scratch. The humans, who had been exiled by the most powerful force in the galaxy, would not lie down and die. They would find a way to turn the tables. In the first few months, the humans struggled to find food and water. Asteris was a world of extreme temperatures, with violent dust storms that could wipe out entire settlements in a matter of hours. Yet in the face of this adversity, the humans began to show their true nature. They'd worked together, pooling their knowledge and skills to figure out how to survive. They repurposed the technology from their ships, turning them into tools for digging, farming, and gathering resources from the harsh environment. One group of scientists, led by Dr. Elias Hart, a brilliant engineer, focused on creating a sustainable energy source from Asteris's barren surface. They discovered that the planet's core held untapped geothermal power that could fuel their efforts. The humans had the resources they needed to create energy, something the Galactic Council had not anticipated. The energy they harnessed from the planet's core allowed them to build the first human settlements, safe havens where they could begin to rebuild their civilization. As the humans continued to adapt and grow stronger, their sense of unity became their greatest weapon. In the face of every challenge, they found solutions. The people of Earth had always been resourceful, and now, with the threat of extinction hanging over them, they began to tap into that creativity like never before. They built new technologies, repurposed old ones, and began to design advanced structures capable of withstanding the planet's extreme conditions. But it wasn't just the technology that set them apart. It was the human spirit, their refusal to give up, no matter the odds. As the first year on Asteris came to an end, the humans had transformed the barren planet into a thriving base of operations. They were no longer merely surviving. They were becoming something far greater than the Galactic Council had ever imagined. Dr. Hart's team had successfully developed a series of advanced weapons, capable of not only defending themselves, but also potentially challenging the might of the Galactic Council. These weapons were built with technology far beyond what humanity had been able to create on Earth. They were pieces of innovation born out of necessity, designed to give humanity a fighting chance against the overwhelming power of the Council. As the human colony on Asteris flourished, a small group of human leaders began to emerge, each with their own vision for the future of humanity. But there was one leader who stood above the rest, Captain Kira Torres. She was a fierce, determined woman who had once been a commander in the Earth fleet before the Exile. Now, she was the leader of a growing resistance on Asteris, a symbol of hope and strength for all the humans stranded on the barren world. She knew the time was coming when they would need to fight back. They could not remain hidden forever. Captain Torres had a vision: to return to the galaxy, to face the Galactic Council head-on, and show them that humanity was not to be underestimated. She was convinced that they had the power to reclaim their place among the stars, but it would require more than just weapons and technology. It would require unity, strength, and a willingness to make sacrifices. Under her leadership, the humans of Asteris began to prepare for what seemed like an impossible mission: to build a fleet strong enough to break through the Galactic Council's defenses and make their way back to the center of the galaxy. It was a task that would require everything they had: every ounce of strength, every bit of knowledge, and every ounce of courage. But they were ready. They would not let the Council's decision be the end of their story. In the quiet of the night, as the stars above Asteris shone dimly in the cold sky, Captain Torres addressed the gathered humans. "We've been cast aside, forgotten by the galaxy," she said, her voice carrying the weight of their struggle. "But we will rise. We will show them that humanity's spirit can never be broken. Together, we will fight for our future." Her words sparked something in the hearts of every person listening. The fire of defiance ignited in their hearts. They were not just survivors on a distant world. They were the future of humanity, and they would not be defeated by the Galactic Council. Soon, they began constructing ships, sleek, powerful vessels capable of crossing the vast distances of space. The technology they had developed over the months was now being put to use for their most ambitious goal: to reclaim what had been taken from them. The human fleet grew, piece by piece, as the people of Asteris worked together to build the ships that would take them back to the galaxy. As the months passed, their fleet became a force to be reckoned with. The people of Asteris had created weapons that could match anything the Galactic Council had, and their ships were equipped with advanced engines that could travel faster than any known technology in the galaxy. They were ready to take the fight back to the very people who had exiled them. But as they prepared to launch, a new danger emerged. The Galactic Council, sensing that something was amiss, had begun to monitor Asteris more closely. They had underestimated humanity once before, but now they were aware of the growing power on the barren planet. Soon, the humans would not only have to fight for their survival on Asteris, they would have to fight for their freedom against the might of the Galactic Council's forces. The stage was set. Humanity had no choice but to fight. The question now was not whether they would survive, but whether they could overcome the most powerful force in the galaxy and take back what was rightfully theirs. Humanity's time on Asteris had shaped them into something more formidable than the Galactic Council could have ever imagined. After years of isolation, their strength and resilience had grown beyond what anyone could have predicted. They had not only survived but thrived on the barren planet. The technology they had developed, combined with their unyielding determination, had transformed them from outcasts into a force capable of striking back at the very powers that had exiled them. Captain Kira Torres stood at the front of the makeshift command center on Asteris, looking out over the growing fleet that was now ready to depart. The fleet had been built piece by piece, every ship constructed with the hard work of the humans who had come together under her leadership. The once small and fragile hope they had felt in the beginning had transformed into something far greater, an army determined to take back their rightful place in the galaxy. The fleet consisted of ships of all sizes. Some were sleek and fast, designed for stealth and speed, while others were massive, built for battle with powerful weapons capable of rivaling anything the Galactic Council had at its disposal. The humans had learned to use the planet's resources to their advantage. They had repurposed the equipment they had brought with them and scavenged what they could from the wreckage of their ships. Slowly, the pieces had come together, forming a fleet ready to challenge the most powerful organization in the galaxy. They had created advanced engines that could take them beyond anything humanity had achieved before, and with the help of the scientists who had worked tirelessly for years, they had developed weapons that could tear through the defenses of the Galactic Council's ships. The time for hiding was over. The Galactic Council had long thought of the humans as nothing more than a nuisance, an unpredictable species that could be exiled and forgotten. But now, the humans had a plan. Captain Torres knew they were not just fighting for their survival anymore. They were fighting for their freedom and their future. As the fleet prepared to launch, Torres called a meeting with the top commanders of the fleet. She needed their full commitment, and she could see the resolve in their eyes as they gathered around the table. There were no longer any doubts among them, no hesitation. Every person in this room had lost something, whether it was family, friends, or the lives they had once known. But now, they all had a single purpose: to return to the heart of the galaxy and challenge the very forces that had cast them aside. "We will not go quietly into the dark," Captain Torres said, her voice steady and strong. "We will remind the Galactic Council why they should never have underestimated humanity. We will strike hard and fast, and we will show them that they cannot control us. This is our fight, and we will win." The commanders nodded, their faces hard with determination. They knew the odds were against them. The Galactic Council was not an organization that would be easily toppled. Its armies were vast, its ships advanced, and its reach extended across the galaxy. But the humans had something the Council did not: an unbreakable will to fight for their freedom. They were not bound by the same rules and structures that governed the rest of the galaxy. They were survivors. They had nothing to lose. The fleet set course for the heart of the galaxy, where the Galactic Council's capital planet, Atavon, sat in the center of all power. It was a place that represented everything the Council stood for: control, domination, and the suppression of anyone who threatened its rule. It was there that the final confrontation would take place, and humanity's fate would be decided once and for all. As the fleet moved through space, heading toward the center of the galaxy, the humans on board worked tirelessly to prepare for the battle ahead. The ships had been equipped with the latest technology, and their crews had undergone rigorous training. But it wasn't just the ships and weapons that would make the difference. It was the spirit of the people who had come together to fight for a common cause. Captain Torres sat in the command center of the flagship, her eyes fixed on the holographic display in front of her. The stars streaked by as they traveled at incredible speeds, but her mind was focused on the battle ahead. She had been in countless fights before, but this was different. This was not just about winning a battle. It was about reclaiming their right to exist, their right to shape their own destiny. "Are we ready?" she asked, her voice calm, but filled with authority. "We are ready, Captain," replied Commander Jarek, her second in command. "All ships are prepared, and the crews are standing by. The weapon systems are online, and we've completed all final checks. We're ready for whatever the Council throws at us." Torres nodded, though she couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. The Galactic Council had long been a symbol of power, and they would not simply give up their control over the galaxy. They would fight back with everything they had. But humanity had something the Council could never understand: the strength to keep fighting no matter the cost. "We're about to enter the most dangerous part of our journey," Captain Torres said. "But remember this. We fight for our freedom, for our families, for everything we've lost. We fight for humanity, and nothing will stop us." As the fleet approached Atavon, the lights on the flagship flickered briefly, signaling the transition to the heart of the galaxy. The tension was palpable. All around, the other ships lined up in formation, their engines humming as they prepared for the final leg of the journey. Torres stood, her mind focused on the task at hand. She knew the battle that awaited them would be fierce, and that they might lose everything in the process. But humanity had already shown its strength once, and now it was time to show the galaxy what they were truly capable of. The moment the fleet arrived in the outer orbit of Atavon, they were met with a formidable sight. The Galactic Council's defense fleet was already in position, their ships forming a barrier between the humans and their target. The odds were stacked against them, but the humans did not hesitate. "Engage," Torres ordered. The fleet surged forward, their weapons charging and ready to fire. As the first shots rang out in space, a massive battle unfolded before them. The once quiet, peaceful space was now filled with chaos, as the human ships fought their way through the Council's defenses. The battle was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen, with explosions lighting up the dark void of space. For the first time, the Galactic Council realized just how wrong they had been to exile humanity. The humans were fighting not just for survival, they were fighting for the future of their species, and they would not be stopped. As the battle raged on, Captain Torres knew that this was only the beginning. The outcome of this war would determine whether humanity would rise to become a dominant force in the galaxy, or whether they would be destroyed by the very powers that had tried to cast them aside. One thing was certain: humanity would never again be overlooked. The battle had begun, and humanity's determination was proving to be a force that the Galactic Council had underestimated. Ships of all sizes clashed in the cold void of space, their weapons lighting up the darkness as the humans fought back with all their might. The fleet, built from nothing on the barren planet Asteris, had proven itself to be a formidable force, challenging the might of the Galactic Council's vast military might. Captain Kira Torres stood at the command center of the flagship, her eyes locked on the holographic display. The battle was fierce. The Council's fleet was large, but the humans were relentless. The ships they had constructed on Asteris were equipped with powerful weapons, and the crews were trained for this very moment, fighting not for glory, but for survival. They had nothing to lose. Every ship that fell in battle was a reminder of everything they had lost, and they fought harder because of it. "Status report," Captain Torres called out, her voice steady despite the chaos around them. "Captain, we've breached the first line of defenses." Commander Jarek responded. "The enemy is pushing back, but our ships are holding strong. We're starting to make headway." Torres nodded. The first stage of the battle was crucial. If they could break through the Council's defenses, they would have a clear path to Atavon, the heart of the Council's power. But even if they succeeded in breaking through, it was far from over. The Galactic Council would not surrender easily. They would fight to the last, and the humans knew that this battle would be the defining moment of their struggle. The human ships moved in tight formation, their engines roaring as they maneuvered to dodge incoming fire. The space around them was filled with flashing lights as lasers, plasma shots, and energy blasts filled the void. The ships moved in perfect coordination, a testament to the months of training and preparation they had undergone. Humanity had learned how to fight as one, using their ingenuity and resourcefulness to outmaneuver the superior technology of the Council. On the surface of Atavon, the Council's capital planet, the leaders of the Galactic Council watched as the battle raged in the skies above. Zorath, the leader of the Council, stood at the center of a massive war room, his eyes fixed on the holographic map of the battlefield. His face was grim, his hands clenched at his sides. He had believed that humanity was a species easily disposed of, that exile would break them. But now, he saw that they had proven him wrong. The humans were fighting back with a ferocity he had never anticipated. "Deploy reinforcements," Zorov ordered, his voice cold. "We cannot allow them to breach Atavon. Prepare the fleet for full-scale retaliation." As reinforcements from the Council's secondary fleets moved toward the battlefield, the situation became even more dire for the humans. The Council's power was vast, and its military might seemed unstoppable. But even as the odds stacked against them, the humans fought on, their hearts full of defiance. They had been exiled, forgotten by the galaxy, but they were no longer the weak, isolated species they once were. They had grown stronger, and their time had come. Captain Torres stood at the helm, her gaze unflinching as the battle continued to unfold. She had been in countless fights before, but this one was different. This was not just a fight for victory. It was a fight for survival. It was a fight for humanity's future. She had made a promise to her people that they would rise again, and she would not let them down. "All ships, prepare for Phase 2, she called out. "We break through their lines, we push forward to Atavon. This is our only chance." The humans, now fueled by the fire of their determination, began to push forward with renewed strength. They had come too far to turn back now. Their mission was clear: to take back their place in the galaxy and show the Galactic Council that they would not be dismissed. They would not be cast aside again. As they moved forward, the human ships encountered increasingly intense resistance. The Council's reinforcements had arrived, and the battle intensified. Ships collided, energy blasts erupted in the void, and explosions lit up the dark expanse of space. The humans fought with everything they had, determined to pierce through the Council's defenses and reach Atavon. "We're almost there," Commander Jarek reported. "Atavon is in range. We've broken through the Council's outer defenses, but they're pushing harder now." "Don't stop," Captain Torres ordered. "We are humanity's last hope. We will not falter now." The final push toward Atavon began. The human fleet, battered but unbroken, moved toward the Council's capital planet. It was the moment they had been fighting for, the moment when they would either reclaim their place in the galaxy or be crushed beneath the weight of the Council's power. As they approached Atavon, the Council's flagship emerged from the shadows, a massive warship that dwarfed the human vessels. The ship's hull gleamed with dark energy, its weapons poised to unleash devastation on anything that crossed its path. This was the final challenge, the last obstacle standing between the humans and their goal. "Focus fire on their flagship," Captain Torres shouted. "If we can take it down, the rest of the fleet will crumble." The human ships concentrated their fire on the massive flagship, unleashing a barrage of lasers and missiles. The battle around them raged, but everything hinged on this final attack. The Council flagship retaliated, its weapons tearing through space, but the humans pressed on. They could feel the weight of history on their shoulders. The space around them seemed to warp as the battle reached its peak. Explosions erupted, and the sheer force of the combat shook the human ships. Yet, through it all, Captain Torres remained steadfast. She knew that the fate of humanity rested in this moment. The fate of their future, the fate of their very survival, was in their hands. And then it happened. With one final, decisive strike, the human fleet breached the shields of the Council flagship. The massive ship exploded in a burst of light, sending shockwaves across the battlefield. The Council's reinforcements, without their command ship, faltered, their coordination breaking down as the human fleet surged forward. "Victory!" Commander Jarek shouted, his voice filled with disbelief. "We've done it." But Captain Torres didn't celebrate. She knew this battle wasn't over yet. The Galactic Council may have been defeated in this moment, but there were still challenges ahead. They would need to rebuild, reclaim their rightful place in the galaxy, and ensure that humanity's place in the stars would never again be threatened. "We've won this battle," Captain Torres said, her voice steady and filled with resolve. "But the war is far from over. This is just the beginning." The humans had broken through. They had proven that they would not be cast aside. And with this victory, they had shown the entire galaxy that humanity would not be silenced. They had risen from the ashes of exile, stronger than ever, and now they were ready to take their place as a force to be reckoned with. The future was theirs.